I've always found the shipbuilding concept in games interesting, but it's never particularly fleshed out. Some games they allow you to swap out thrusters but limit the placement, choose between a laser or a gun, shield or, well, a bigger shield. Cosmoteer though, you can build pretty much anything here. Whether it'll work? Questionable. But if you want to build a brick with lasers, by God you can. This is a game for better men than I. Why do I say that? Well, the best I could come up with in the 10 hours I've played this game is a grey box with shooty lasers on the front. Others though, y'all are some sick fucks. How do you even think this up? But this is the allure, the beauty of this game. The ability to build your own Death Star. In theory anyway, it's all set in a 2D plane. This guy gave it a go. Is it a Death Star if it's square? I mean, it's the thought that counts, right? Now, I've only just scratched the surface of this game. I'm not an expert ship builder. I'm not going to give you some expert strategies on how to roll the AI or other players. And yes, you can engage in PvP and co-op in this game. Although I haven't dared touch the PvP with my shooty grey box. This game graced us in early access just last month, and I was wary of it. Like a child sussing out the middle-aged man in his white van, I didn't want to be tempted by the sweet nothings of yet another early access game. But I've got to say, this game is worth your time. That's if you enjoy space-related exploration games, and primarily shipbuilding, as that is the main focus and success of this game. Most of my time with Cosmoteer to date has been in the career mode. You're given some options for starting ships and thrust into the world to work it out. The tutorial system is good. You learn as you go and slowly build an understanding of how to move your ship, engage in combat, and over time as you find yourself upgrading your ship, the game naturally gives you more information about further aspects of it. I've got to say, I really appreciate this type of tutorial system. A good example of this is the crew management. I barely even gave thought to my crew when I started, but after upgrading living quarters and picking up a few more men to man the guns, I was then given the information that they can be targeted to specific systems to streamline how the interior of your ship runs. So I didn't have men running from the bottom of the ship to the top to man guns. I could tell the people at the bottom to just manage the engines. It really naturally kind of gave me it as I needed it. I didn't need that at the start. I would have done nothing with that information when I first started. Similarly with weapons. After building a few more lasers, that is still my thing to date, the game flicked me a heads up on using control groups to target more than one enemy system at a time. This is again, if I'd been told that at the start, I had like 2 lasers. I wouldn't have used that, so what would have been the point? But instead, after maybe a couple of hours, I was then given the heads up about the system. It really allowed me to slowly roll into the variety of systems impacting the game, which is such a huge help. Combat in this game really eases you in. You're told to shoot for the cockpit or shoot for the power systems. Either one will generally lead to the enemy's demise. The power system will usually lead to secondary explosions, which will tear the whole ship apart. The cockpit going down will flat out kill the ship, as this is the control center for everything. Early on, you'll find yourself looking at a ship coming at you and you'll ask yourself, where is the cockpit? Or where is the power system? Once you know that, you'll aim for one or the other, take out the ship pretty quickly. As ships you encounter become more complex, they begin to have shields, they begin to be shooting missiles at you. You realize that on its own doesn't quite work as well anymore. You start needing to consider, well, how am I going to get around the shields? Do I need to disable the shields? Do I need the weapon that will allow me to do that? The first time I came across enemies using missiles, I was woefully unprepared for it. I had no point defense, my shields only covered a small portion of my ship, and the missiles were regularly slipping around the outside and just absolutely tearing me apart. What I really enjoyed was the experimentation. I was never really afraid to die. The game auto-saves regularly enough that you'll usually have a backup pretty quickly, or you can choose to manually save whenever you want. I think that is the best way to play this game, is not to be afraid to just lose your ship. Especially early on. You need to be taking the risks, just going out and fighting it, because that's how you'll learn the different systems, the different mechanics, the different weapons. The paper, scissors, rock to coming up against somebody with lasers, somebody with missiles, somebody with a lot of disruptors. They're going to really hamper the ship's systems and stop your weapons firing, stop your shields regenerating. I had so much fun with the trial and error of that system. Finding a ship that I couldn't quite overcome the first time, going back, tinkering with the design, going back again, maybe getting absolutely slapped for a 3rd or 4th time, going back and each time just kind of working out, okay, what do I need on my ship that's going to help me overcome that obstacle? Outside of the combat, the game's world seems, well, the game's universe seems to be really quite expansive. I haven't seen much of it. I've only played Town Hours myself, and most of that I've remained in the starting kind of galaxy that you have, or the starting system rather. You're given missions, most of which are either delivery missions, collection missions, or missions to kill other ships. It's basic, but for the type of game and the price tag on this game, I think it works. I think it works quite well. Again, it is built around building a ship. It is built around the combat. That's what I want, and that's what the game kind of steers you towards. Now, to build your ship in the career mode, you'll need credits. You'll get these from completing the missions, salvaging other ships once you've taken them down, or through mining. I found the progression of the career mode to be just what I liked. Now, you can alter this so you give yourself more or less money over time, but I enjoyed having a limit to that. After short periods, I was easily able to upgrade my systems. For a first-time player, I would definitely recommend that, but you can always choose the setting to allow more credits if you prefer to just speed up the process and really superpower your build. I really liked the challenge of coming up against other ships with a new system or a different build, that I then had to think about how I was going to achieve beating that rather than just going through and steamrolling everything with a Death Star. There is also a creative mode in which you can build, test out ships and systems and build your ultimate creation. What I really liked about that system is it brought over my ship from the career mode. Not what you're seeing here. This was the creation I tried to make. I tried to link all these lasers to shoot through a central beam to really magnify it. Now that is something you can do. It didn't work out particularly well here because it turns out my point of weakness is just the very open front that I left to it. I appreciated that my ship from the career mode I could just import over and test it out against this new one. Have I created something that's better? Have I created something that's worse? This system let me test that out. Let me really check, okay, what works against the ship I built here and what doesn't work. You know, that was a well-rounded ship that I felt I built in career mode. Again, it was fairly early on, but I thought this Death Star style ship with a single really strong beam will easily take it out. Any moment now, right? Easily. Look at that beam. How could that lose? Oh yeah, it's the lasers just get right through the center and straight onto that power generator. And it kind of turns out that when that happens, things don't go particularly well. What I really appreciated about that was that I was able to test that out. And the mistakes I made there were so obvious after I'd made them. Obviously, I leave a giant hole in the front of my ship. Lasers are going to go through. Why I didn't have shields? I was just assuming that the laser cannon would take out my ship, my career ship that is, in no time at all. Turns out the shields are much more effective than I had actually realized. But that's what I love about this game. The trial and error. It is so good, and I would highly recommend this to anyone who has even a fleeting interest in this. Again, it is an early access game. Things are going to change. Systems are going to be built upon over time. They have a Discord, which is where I got those initial images for other people's builds. It's really active. It's really fun. The community there seems absolutely fantastic. So look, those are just some of my initial thoughts, my first impressions on Cosmoteer. What do you think about this? Is this a game you've seen before? Is this something you were looking at checking out and you were just trying to suss out? Is it worth buying? Is it a game you've already bought and you're loving it? Any tips on building a good ship? I'll happily take them. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. If you want to help me out, just leaving a like, subscribing, or leaving a comment, all help me out. Thank you all so much. The subscribers on this channel continue to grow, and yeah, I couldn't be more thrilled. See you in the next one.